What's up, guys? This episode of Fall Obsession Podcast is brought to you all in partnership with Hoot Camo, Bear River Archery, Tactacam Reveal, and the Outdoor Call Radio app. If you guys are curious to check out some discount codes that these partners have put together specifically for you Fall Obsession Podcast listeners, then I encourage you to go to the episode description wherever you're listening. That's included on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Carbon TV, all of the apps. And you guys can check out that discount code and save on your next order from some of these partners. Do me a quick favor while you're listening. Be sure that you guys are following the show and subscribed on whatever podcast platform you like to stream from. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a like on all of our social media pages. We always appreciate that. That's how you can support everything that we're doing here at Fall Obsession. I am your show host, Sam Thrash, and this week my guest is Gregg Farrell from one of our partners, Tactacam Reveal. This is an awesome conversation, guys. I hope y'all enjoy. You are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
The power lies within that middle ground.
Hunting transformed my life.
I think you have to be built somewhat different.
That Dale Brisby's a super puncher.
We need to get Pop-Tarts on the next Walmart order. I'm serious.
Because to come into this country and stay dedicated to that, it was pretty awesome.
If it's only for one, then you've done your job.
We have to do what's right for the wildlife, and that's our responsibility as hunters.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Fall Obsession Podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your host, and this week I am joined by Gregg Farrell from Tactacam. Welcome to Fall Obsession Podcast, man.
Thanks for having me. Good to chat.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one, man. We've been partnered with you guys and using Reveal cell cams for a few years now, and I love them more and more every year, man. So I definitely got a lot of questions and a lot of stuff I want to pick your brain on, and I'm looking forward to this one for sure. So
Heck yeah, let's do it.
well, just to kick things off, man, I want to start with you, and I want to ask you, how did you get plugged in with Tactacam?
Yeah, great question. So, I started my career in the hunt and outdoor industry, actually with First Light. Gosh, that was probably 11, 12 years ago now. And they were really small at the time. Like, I think I was employee number 6 or 7.
Oh, wow.
And I spent almost a decade there wearing a bunch of different hats from, marketing to sales, customer service, and then eventually ended up in product development and kind of brand ownership. So that was kind of my evolution there. Spent some time with Meat Eater after that acquisition happened. And then, yeah, about 2.5 years ago now, I was looking for a change, ready for kind of the next thing. And Tactacam was growing like crazy. I had known a few people that had come over here and were super happy working here. So I talked to a few folks over here, and they had an opening on the brand and marketing side that was a real good fit just kind of for me and where my career had taken me. So I decided to come over here and hop on the rocket ship that definitely the fuse is already ignited on. But yeah, we've been doing as much as we can to continue to pour fuel on that fire over the last couple of years, and it's been great. I mean, company's great, organization's great. It's one of the best cultures of any place I've ever worked at. And it's pretty fun to be, working for and with a market share leader in the space that we play in. There's no lack of motivation and innovation and drive. It's definitely a dirt under the fingernails. Like, everybody works hard here, work hard, play hard mentality. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be a part of, and definitely feel lucky to be part of the Tactacam team.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that a culture like that, I'm sure that there are days that are probably, that do feel like work, but, when you work for a brand like that, the idea is that you enjoy what you do, and, it doesn't necessarily feel like a job. So I can relate to that for sure. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, totally. And it's like when it's a shared experience, right? When you feel like your work is actually contributing to the greater goals and the greater good of the organization, and you kind of see everybody with that same mentality, right? Of like pulling on your boots, rolling up your shirt sleeves, getting to work. I think it breeds a really interesting culture of people that are kind of here for each other. There's really no, I know it's cliche, but like no I in team. And I would say that's very much the culture that's been built at this place.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So so there was a transition years ago because and this is from my perspective as just a hunter and later a hunter that later became more affiliated with you guys, but it seemed like there was like the POV camera side was a big part of Tactacam, and Tactacam was making its name with that, and then the cell cams, like that whole push just in the industry in general became a thing. Tactacam got involved in that, and now that's like the bread and butter at this point. That's the wheelhouse. So what was that? And you may or may not have a lot of experience based on when you came into Tactacam to speak on that, but relevant to what you know, what signified that transition, and what was the big focus in going the cell cam route?
Yeah, I think, and truly, like what you just described is what makes this organization, I think, unique and special. And I think also is a lot of the reason this organization has had the success that it did is that our founders are truly end users, right? They are hunters. They're primarily hunters, and then secondarily, right, like this business came out of it. So the way products get developed here, going all the way back to that point of view camera to where we are now, right? Like that truly hasn't changed. So that point of view camera was released back in 2013. And really that came from this want or need to be able to capture your hunts in a low tech, like easy way, right? Because previous to that, it was like, okay, you're bringing a DSLR or, some type of higher tech, maybe even a true video camera into the woods. And like, unless you had some experience operating those cameras, right, or really knew what you were doing, it wasn't a low lift thing to do. So they wanted a way to capture their hunt in a way that was low lift and accessible to kind of anybody, right, to like store those memories. So that is really why, like, that was the origin story of that POV camera. Now, to your point, like that camera did great. It was gaining a lot of traction in the market. People loved it. And then, like, the next thing, it kind of just aligned with the boom of cellular trail cameras. And for our owners, our founders, right? Like, in their mind, they had solved this problem of the camera, right? They had created a really small camera that took great photos, great videos, great image quality, right? And in their mind, they're like, hey, we're not necessarily stoked with what we're seeing on the cellular camera side of things, both from a price point perspective and a performance perspective. Can we take this camera, essentially put it into a different form factor and build something that we as hunters would want to use in the field and would be willing to spend our hard-earned dollars on, right?
Yeah.
And that's really was the origin story of Reveal. That's how Reveal started. And the rest is kind of history. Like, that camera came to market at a price point that had never been seen before for cellular trail cameras and was providing, value in terms of like image quality performance that was outdoing those cameras that were 2-3 times as much. And it just took off like wildfire, right? And now if you look at some of the other brands in our portfolio, right? Like the next thing that we brought to market was Defend. Defend is a cellular security camera, right? And that came from us essentially listening to our customers and the experience we saw in ourselves, where it was like, hey, we're using these Reveal trail cameras in a security sense or in a security use case because there's places where we don't have Wi-Fi or we don't have power, but we want to keep an eye on property or a pole barn or equipment or
Yeah.
a driveway, right? It's like, well, why don't we build something that's actually more suited for security? So that was where Defend came from, right? And then if you look at like Habitat IQ, which is our new land management and hunting app, it was the same thing. It was like we were using all these different apps or sources of information to try and like cobble together the information we needed because it didn't exist in the market. And it's like, well, we have this, now being, 10 plus years into this business, we have a very developed and powerful both, internal engineering team on the hardware and software side. It's like, let's just go build the thing we want. So that's kind of the consistent theme with Tactacam and the products and brands we brought to market is like there either wasn't something in the market that we wanted to use or we saw an opportunity to improve what was there and set our sights on doing that.
Yeah. I definitely want to talk more detail on the cell cam side of everything, because that's obviously probably that's in my mind one of the biggest splashes y'all have made in the industry, and definitely what a lot of people tuning in are probably most familiar with. But You just brought it up. Let's go ahead and address it. You just brought up the Habitat IQ, which is a newer thing, my understanding. Talk a little bit more detail about what is that and how that actually works.
Yeah, I'll try and give you the elevator pitch here. We can go deeper in anything, any details you want. But ultimately, what Habitat IQ is designed to do is it's meant to be kind of a one-stop shop for understanding not only A, how deer use your property, but B, how you can improve your property or change the way deer use your property, and then C, how that relates to eventually, the most important thing is how do you hunt that property? So, um, let me give you an example here, right? I think something that any of us who have ever had the opportunity to manage land or try and improve land or improve our hunting parcels, it's an experience we share, right? Is almost this analysis paralysis of what to do, right? Because there's so much information out there. Like if you, I mean, just do a quick Google search on, CRP or switchgrass or water holes, right? And you're going to get 30 different suggestions for 30 different reasons. And you're probably going to leave actually more confused than you started. Or what to plant, like what to plant in a food plot. And then even once you decide what to plant, like when to plant it. Do you need to, do a soil sample? Do you need to add lime? Do you need to add some type of fertilizer? Like, all of those things. So we really found like that space to be very confusing and cumbersome. And what we wanted to do is like, how do we simplify that into an equation or a product, right? That can really guide people from start to finish in terms of what they're going to do on their property. The other part of it too, that, the major problem that it solves is like any of those things that I just talked about. Let's say you're thinking about adding a food plot to your property. Historically, in order for you to find out like if adding that food plot was helpful or not, you would actually have to take the time, the energy, the money to go maybe do a bunch of, TSI work to clear an area, right? Then you're going to have to get heavy equipment in there to maybe till that area up or take stumps out, right? Then you're going to have to plant that food plot. Then you're going to have to go through at least a full season to see it's like, hey, did this food plot actually improve my property or not? At that point, you have a lot of time and effort and money sunk into that food plot. And not all food plots are actually good for properties, right? Because potentially, if you're pulling deer into an area where maybe they shouldn't be, like you might be changing your access routes, right? Or you might be actually increasing the pressure on that property based off where the food is and then impacts where bedding is, right? So the other part of Habitat IQ is essentially the ability to create this sandbox or simulation environment where you can go in there and you can say, hey, if I were to add this food plot here, how would that theoretically change my property score? Would it improve my property score or decrease my property score? And if I did do that, how would that change where deer bed or how deer use this property, right? So before you even put boots on the ground, you can actually play these simulations out on the properties you're hunting to see like, is this a net positive or a net negative? Now, some of us don't have the ability to like change the property that we hunt. Maybe maybe you have a permission police or you're leasing ground, right? Or even it's a piece of public. But there's still the question of like, hey, I want to hang a tree stand here. I'm thinking about hunting here based off of where this app can tell me deer are bedding, deer use the property. Like, is that going to be good for my hunting or is that going to be bad for my hunting? Right. So all of that sounds great on paper, right? And I think the question that most people are going to ask is like, well, how does this thing do this, right? How does this app actually accomplish this? And that's where I think there's a lot of factors that go into how we built this app. First and foremost, we'll have almost 600 employees in this organization this year. Almost all of them hunt, right? So like we have a very large core of people who are end users of the product, and that gives us great input anytime we want to develop something. Like you can hire the smartest engineers in the world, right? If they're not hunters or they don't have inputs from hunters to build products, like you don't get the best product out. Okay. So that was kind of the first part, the first input in how we started to build this product. The second one was we know that while we are all hunters and we enjoy this, like there are smarter minds than our own out there as it comes to habitat improvement, property management, et cetera, right? Yeah. So we brought in a lot of experts like the Lee Lakoskis of the world, the Jeff Sturgises of the world, the Skip Slies of the world, right? And they essentially became the major input to our developers and our engineers in terms of like, what this app actually was supposed to do and what it was actually supposed to provide to an audience. We could also use these guys as a litmus test, right? As we started to build this algorithm in this app where we would put a bunch of inputs in, it would kick out an output, and then we could compare that to what these masterminds of habitat management and whitetail properties, what they would actually suggest or do for clients and make sure that it was matching up, right? And then the third aspect of it, right, is like, as everybody knows, like technology in the AI world, like that is becoming such a huge tool where we can take tons and tons of data, right, and actually dump it into this app and get real world outputs based off of data. So I'll give you an example just very quickly on this. I know I'm getting a little long winded here, but
No,
like
you're good.
take Reveal trail cameras, for example, right? A Reveal trail camera or Reveal trail cameras, any on average, any day in November, if you look at all the Reveal trail cameras that are out in the world right now, those cameras will take about somewhere between 70 to 100 million photos a day on any day in November. Okay. So you got, let's just average that out, right? Let's say you got 85 million photos a day being taken every single day of November. That doesn't include the rest of the year. Every one of those photos has data attached to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know which photo came from your property, but I know the photos that came from your zip code because your camera has to send that photo to a cell tower, which is associated to a zip code, right?
Okay.
So I have zip code specific data about deer movement, right? Like daytime versus nighttime. So I know down to the zip code when deer are moving, right? We also know like barometric pressure, wind direction, moon phase, all of those other pieces of data too. So if you think about how much data we're getting from the Reveal side of things and being able to use an algorithm, right, an AI driven algorithm to kind of not only pull that data together, but read that data, right? I think that's the difference in what we're able to do with the Habitat IQ app versus, other people who have tried to do similar things. Because it is so much data. It's zip code specific. It's real wild deer. It's not collared deer, right? So you kind of bring all those things together and you end up with this app that can really help you in, a myriad of ways, like either one, just how to hunt a property, two, how to improve a property over a period of time, and three, really be your kind of checks and balances in terms of like what these simulations that you might put together on what you think you might do, and then turning that into your to-do list, right? In terms of how are you actually going to continue to chip away at making this property better over the course of 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was going to be a question, would be the relevance to an individual's property, and everything you're saying as far as how you're looking at it through the zip code. That makes total sense. Does it tie at all to like the Reveal app and that specific person's trail cam pictures that they're getting, or is it in general context for that zip code?
Yeah, so that's the cool thing about it is like you do not have to be a Reveal user to find value from the Habitat IQ app. Anything that you want to do in that app, you can do whether you're a Reveal user or not. Now,
Okay.
where the app really becomes supercharged is if you are a Reveal user, because if you sign up for Habitat IQ and you use the same username and password that you do for your Reveal app, those two apps, they will automatically talk to one another. So
Nice.
basically, like if you, Sam, if you went today and you signed up for Habitat IQ, you selected your property, you would actually, all of the Reveal cameras that you had on that property would automatically pre-populate on that property based off the GPS that's in that camera. And then the cool thing about that is like now not only are your cameras there, so you could go to that camera, from the Habitat IQ app, you could just click on that camera on the map portion of it and then see all your photos, right? Or look at historical data from that camera. But, it also then, to your point, allows that person to actually kind of even more further customize their Habitat IQ app or their property based off the data that, they're getting from their own cameras that integrate with that app.
Gotcha. Man, that is freaking cool. I'm literally gonna have to sign up when we get off this podcast. That sounds awesome. And it works with when you say it syncs up and those cameras talk to it. And I'll use myself as an example because on my property I have lots of different generations of Reveal cell cams running. I got ultras, I got 3.0s, I got a couple of 2.0s out there, and all of them talk to it just the same.
Yep. Yep.
Awesome.
So any
Awesome.
reveal camera that is GPS enabled. So meaning that any reveal camera that shows up on your reveal, like if you go into your reveal app and you open up the map section of it, any camera that shows up on there will automatically integrate on the Habitat IQ app as well.
That's awesome, man. That's a huge technological advancement for sure in the hunting world and everything. And are there other comparable apps to this, or is this kind of a first in the industry?
It's really a first in the industry, right? And that's kind of why we developed it, right? Because what we noticed ourselves doing is like you go out into the field and you had 4 or 5 different apps that you were using for a given, purpose, right? Like whether you were hunting or trying to do preseason work or whatever, right? It's like you had your mapping app, you had your trail camera app, you had, maybe your weather app or, all these, your deer predictivity app. Like we had all these things that's like, how can we bring this all together into one platform that's really usable 12 months out of the year, right? Whether you're somebody who's actually doing property improvements or just trying to better understand how deer use your property and how what you do on that property impacts them, right? Because when you sign up for the app, there's a few main inputs that you have to give before the app can start producing like valuable outputs for you, right? So what it's going to take into consideration, obviously, is food. And this can be food from, large agricultural fields down to small, like kill plot food plots, right? It could even be like timber stands, right? Like let's say you have an oak flat, right? That can be obviously a food source, right? So you can take that into account. In states where it's legal to bait or put mineral out, right? Like that is a food source. So food is one major input. Water is another one, right? So whether it's water holes, rivers, ponds, things like that, that's going to impact deer movement. Cover, right? So your ratio of timber, thick cover to open, whether that's pasture, prairie, food, etc. And then human pressure. So all of those inputs really are going to be the 4 kind of main pillars that determine how deer use your property, where they bed, etc. So once you have those inputs put in, essentially what the app does is it creates a baseline for your property. So it's saying, okay, based off of all these inputs, this is your property right now. So you kind of get that snapshot, right? And it's going to give you essentially the bedding zones for does, fawns, immature bucks, mature bucks based off those inputs, right? And then you can start playing with it. So you could say, for example, like, all right, I have this ATV path that cuts through my property. How does deer bedding change if I say, okay, this ATV path only gets used as an ATV path during the off season versus all season, right?
Mm.
Like if I'm driving through there all season, that changes how and where deer bed, right? Or like we talked about earlier, if I decide to put a food plot here or put a water hole here or hang a tree stand here, right? And then ultimately it's always comparing to your baseline. So does your score go up? Does your score go down? Um, and then the really cool part about it too is like as you build out that to-do list or your property plan, you can organize that property plan by level of impact. So let's say you have 20 things you want to do on your property. You're not going to be able to get all 20 of those done very likely in a year. So you can look at that and you can say, okay, of these 20 things, what has the greatest impact? And maybe I'm just going to choose those 2 and do those this year, right? But through the simulations and understanding property plan and impact, it really allows you to kind of build this hierarchy of not only what you want to do, but what you should do, right? To make the greatest improvements to your property in the shortest period of time.
Man, that's awesome. That's game changer right there. And that's coming after, like in the Reveal app, there's already they're more camera specific, but and all the filters and the data that you can apply and compile just in the Reveal app itself is already, in my opinion, impressive, and definitely can change the way you hunt. So having a whole nother tier to that level of technological advancement in just habitat management, I think is pretty insane. So, man, I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and like I'll tease something out here, right? Like hopefully I don't get fired for this, but in the Reveal app last year, we released our own version of deer predictivity, right? So there's a lot of other deer predictivity apps out there right now. Like I won't name names, but if you think about I'll just give you examples of how some of those apps were created, right? So one of the more well-known ones is based off of, a couple of guys who are really, really smart. Don't get me wrong. They're some of the smartest people in the whitetail industry. It's their anecdotal algorithm for what causes deer to move or not move, right? However, what they're building their algorithm off of is, large, huge tracts of private land in southeast Iowa on unpressured deer, right? That might not apply to, say, me on a more heavily pressured farm in, say, Wisconsin, right? Or somebody down in the South, right? So inherently, like, there's issues with that, right? Another very popular one on the market bases all of their deer predictivity off of collared deer data, from deer that are collared in a pen in Mississippi, right? That doesn't necessarily like applicable across the entire range of where whitetails are hunted. What's really cool about our predictivity app, and I alluded to this earlier, right, is like this is real deer data coming from your zip code. So as we continue to evolve the Habitat IQ app and the things that we've done on the Reveal app and integrate more and more how these things talk to each other, and you start thinking about like predictivity and heat maps and things like that, it's like we're only just getting started, right? Like there's so much more we can do to continue to move and push the needle on the Habitat IQ side as it integrates with, the data and what we're doing on the Reveal side.
Yeah. No, that's huge, the relevancy to specific locations and stuff, because I've run into that even just now as a deer hunter. We have a little over 40 individuals on our team here at Fall Obsession across the country, and I got some guys, in other states. I'm down here in Texas, and I got some guys in other states that, manage their own properties, and I pick their brains throughout the year, every year at some point, it seems like, as far as, what works, what doesn't work, what should I be doing different on our property down here. And one of our team members up in New York, he's very, very smart when it comes to deer management. Big Reveal cell cam user, uses all of the data, all the features that your cameras offer. And him and I have had multiple conversations. I've even sent him like the, just map screenshots of our property and what I got going and stuff. And he's told me what he thinks and tried to predict some stuff for me. But some of it is relevant, some of it is accurate, and the other side of it is, man, hunting down here, like my deer don't do the same thing your deer up in New York do. Like they just don't. So that's huge, just the relevancy to your own areas and your own deer. So I'm excited. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. We're really excited about it. And I think, the last thing I'll kind of say is, we really wanted to build this app with our consumers, right? Like we're never going to have the consumer be the guinea pig. This thing has been tested, beyond belief, over the last 18 months. Like really, it's been tested a lot, but ultimately there's so much more we can do with it, but we wanted to build it along with folks, right? So we released it to the world because we're excited about where it is, but because it's software, like this isn't a once a year we release a new camera type of thing. Like we're literally making improvements and updates to this thing every single week. And a lot of that is coming from the feedback that we get from people that are using it. So when you sign up, like you can actually see right on the bottom of the main screen, there's like a suggestion box. And we literally comb those every day and we're prioritizing those suggestions. And like that's determining the roadmap for where this thing goes. So like we know what we want to do and what we have the ability to do on the technology side, right? And we're going to continue to push the needle there. But ultimately, like we're trying to continue to evolve and build this along with our customers because they're the ones that are using it in the field and we want to make sure it serves them. So it's really exciting how fast we can update and change. Like weekly, monthly, quarterly, this thing is literally evolving, all the time and getting better. And there's more integrations and more features. So it's going to be really fun to, watch and tag along as it continues to grow and evolve and improve.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's going to be incredible. So I did want to ask you, and I think this is the appropriate time, talking about all this technology and just that's going to be readily available at people's fingertips, right? And this is a conversation I've had with both folks on the podcast. I've talked to my dad about it, who I hunt with every season and everything. And that is, and I'm curious what your thoughts are from the Reveal cell cam side. And, just the general question that I've posed to people in the past is this influx in technology in the hunting industry, cell cams, all the different mapping apps and hunt planning apps, all that kind of stuff. Is it making dumber hunters, I guess, or hunters that are more reliant on this kind of stuff? And I'll speak to my own experience. Like, I remember growing up hunting before there were cell cams, before there was any of this stuff. You'd go sit a stand, you'd see deer, you'd not see deer. If you didn't see a deer, it wasn't a big deal. Just, oh well, I'll try again tomorrow type deal, and that was that. But now, for me, I feel myself getting so much more frustrated when stuff doesn't work out, because it's like I'm looking at my trail cameras, I'm looking at all the data on all the pictures. When's this buck moving? When's the best chance at this stand? What's the wind doing? All this kind of stuff. And then when it doesn't come together, I'm left scratching my head like, what did I do wrong? What happened? And to me, it's like it's even more frustrating. I've been more frustrated in recent years as a hunter than I feel like I've ever been in my life, and I keep kicking myself like, why am I doing this to myself? But what are your thoughts on that, as far as what technology is doing to the hunting industry? Good, bad, indifferent?
It's such a good question. And to be completely honest with you, like, it's a question I ask myself very often. And we as an organization do too, right? Like, it's not lost on us, right, by any means. And I think I've got a couple ways that I want to answer this because I think they're all important. I think first and foremost, most of us, I'm assuming most of your listeners, right? Like, and I'll put myself in this group as well because I definitely am. Like, I was lucky. I grew up in a hunting family. I had hunting mentors. Like, that's how I got into this, right? I think for the longevity of our pursuit, aka hunting, we need to have more people coming into our ecosystem, or at least a replenishing amount of people. Like, as hunters leave the ecosystem, whether it's through end of life or otherwise, right? We need to have other people coming into it so that that population remains viable. If you don't come from a hunting family or you don't have a hunting mentor, the barrier to entry for hunting is huge. It is not an easy thing to get into or figure out, right? And I think technology, and I'm not just saying reveal, but hunting technology in general, one of the things it does really well is I think it lowers that barrier to entry, right? So it is going to be a tool that allows us to have the next generation of hunters so that whether it comes to the ballot box or building community or whatever, we are able to sustain ourselves. So first and foremost, like, I will say that. I think beyond that, right, there you have two choices when it comes to technology and hunting, or frankly, technology and anything, right? One, you can bury your head in the sand and act like it doesn't exist, or two, or resist it, right? Or two, you can be an active participant in how it's going to evolve. I think us as an organization, like, we would much rather have a seat at the table and influence how it evolves than try and bury our head in the sand or resist it or shy away from having the conversation, right?
Right.
And I think you'll see that in, like, even a lot of our products. Like, so we released a feature in our app last year called Hunt Sync. And what Hunt Sync allows you to do is literally break the connection between your camera and the app, and it timestamps it in a way that makes that broken connection legal. So let me give you an example. Like, in the state of Montana, you cannot you can have cameras out year round, but you cannot be receiving information from a camera that aids in your pursuit of an animal. Basically meaning that in order to truly be legal, if you had cell cameras out, you would need to take them down before beginning of season, because if you were out in the field, theoretically you could be using information from those cameras that you were receiving to help your hunt, right?
Right.
So we worked with fish and game agencies to actually build a feature in our app to say, hey, how can we work with you guys, not against you guys, so that our customers can leave their cameras out in the field year long, but still be legal and, be abiding of these laws. That's where HuntSync came from, right? So I think that's an example of, like, because we are who we are, we have a seat at the table for a lot of these conversations. And I would rather drive that conversation than be on the sideline or right.
Yeah.
So I think that's the second part of it. And then the third part of it, right, is just, I don't want this to sound like, we're a product of the situation we're in, right? But I relate it to, like, I say this to people sometimes. It's like, okay, you could still drive a horse and buggy to work, but you don't, right? And everybody's like, yeah, no, I don't. I drive a car. And it's like, well, of course you do, because that is how our transportation technology has evolved, right? I think about the same thing. Like, I might be dating myself here, right? But it's like, I remember back in elementary school when computers became like a very normal thing in school, and there was like this riff in society of like either computers are the greatest thing since sliced bread or computers are going to ruin the world, right? Well, guess what? Like every single one of us walks around with one of these in our pocket now, and like it's just become a way of life.
Right.
So that's the other way I kind of look at like hunting technology. But and I kind of followed up with this. It's like, okay, you're a hunter. How many trail camera pictures of deer do you get a year that A, you never actually see on the hoof, and B, you never kill?
Yeah.
For me, it's a lot of like
A
it's
lot.
almost all of them, right? So I think at the end of the day, like to answer your question more directly, like it is a tool, but it doesn't replace woodsmanship, right? It doesn't replace actually learning to read sign and understand animals and how to pursue them, right? And I think we could have the same conversation, say, about bows, right? Like
Yeah.
how compound bows have evolved, or crossbows have evolved, or even rifles or optics, right? Like just because the tools are getting better, at the end of the day, like if you still don't have that baseline amount of woodsmanship or understanding of how to hunt and how to pursue the animal, like truly, it doesn't really change the outcome that much. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but I think all of those like facets of this are important to have like the holistic conversation, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think I think it's a valuable tool. It has its place for sure. I agree. It should not replace woodsmanship. And I think that there's a balance in utilizing it for every hunter, regardless of that hunter's level of experience. Because, just thinking hypothetically here, you get the technology side can give new hunters kind of a leg up, and get them thriving a little bit faster pace potentially than they might have been without it. But the caveat to that is you can't let it become your crutch. And that's where I think that it's still important, like just in hunting in general, whether you're talking technology or not, to still have actual people in your life who are like your mentors in that regard. However they're in your life, whether it's a parent, a sibling, or just a friend, whatever the case might be. But that's I think where you're able to have that balance between, okay, technology is working for me over here, but now I have somebody with experience in the woods over here that is able to kind of help bridge that gap. So yeah, I agree. It has its time and its place for sure. I've definitely let myself get sucked into it and pulled my hair out more times than not. And that's kind of the other thing that I've had to police myself on, is not becoming impatient because of technology either. Because if I got a buck that's showing up the same spot, walking the same trail every evening, for a couple weeks in November, it's like, okay, I got to make sure that if that doesn't work, I'm not just staring at my phone waiting for that camera to tell me that it's time to go type deal. So
It's so true, right? And I think there's pros and cons to all of this, right? I think like we don't need to go down the social media rabbit hole, right? But I think like, social media has really, I think, you know, built this perception of like, oh, everybody kills 180 plus inch deer every year, right? And it's like, that's just not the case. Like, there's a lot of areas where 180-inch deer just don't even exist, right? And I think to your point, like watching this thing go off, photos of your trail camera, it's like, oh, I'm not going to go hunt because I haven't got a photo in a day or whatever, right? Like, it's like, well, if it's November 7th, right, and it's a cold front, like whether you got a photo or not, you should probably go hunt. So I think there's always this balance where I think you said it perfectly. I love the way you said it. It's like we need to police ourselves with regards to like how much are we using it as a tool and how much are we relying on it to make decisions for us. And I think when we find that balance, right, that's kind of that sweet spot. But it's easy to get pulled on either end of that spectrum, and yeah, we got to be careful about that for sure.
yeah, no, there's stuff to be learned and taken away from it for sure. But yeah, we have to be careful with it at the same time. And I won't get off. You said social media. I'm not going to try to get off in the weeds on it, man. But you're right. There's a perception on that, to your point, where people think that all these guys just are out there killing these big deer, and oh man, so and so uses Reveal trail cameras, and if you use Reveal, you must kill big deer because he always kills big deer. It's like, no, that you got to put in the work in other ways, and you might not have that caliber of deer on your place. And that's why I think and this is what the point I was trying to make is, it also depends on who you follow, and people have control over that. I'm not saying don't follow the people who shoot big deer, but also put some stuff in your feed for the people who are in the same boat you're in, and just everyday hunters just like you, and you'll see what they're taking and what their efforts go towards and everything, and might be a little bit more relatable to you. So I think that's healthy as well.
Totally. And also that's one of the cool things about trail cameras, right? Like
Yeah.
as hunters, we spend way more time watching deer than we do killing deer, right? And the trail camera provides an opportunity to watch deer even when you're not in the field. And I think that's what's so cool about these, right? It's like I work in the hunting industry. I would love to say that I get to hunt 70 days a year. Like I don't, right? Like I wish I could hunt more than I do, but I still do feel really connected to the pursuit and the thing that really fuels me, which is like learning these animals, watching these animals in their natural environment. Because even when I'm not out there physically with boots on the ground, like I feel like I'm learning things and seeing things through these trail cameras that I wouldn't otherwise. And to me, like that just makes me that much more connected to the pursuit. And I think that's where technology is actually really good for hunting now, where it's like I can feel connected to the pursuit and the thing that drives me and fuels me even if I can't actively be in the woods. So my time in the woods actually feels that much more important to me, right? And really valuable to me because I feel like I'm always building towards that next sit, even if there's time in between those sits. So I think that's an example where like technology has actually done some good for us as hunters, right? And connecting us to our pursuit.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Absolutely. So speaking of technology, and this might seem like a very just cliche question, but I do believe it's relevant because there's so many cell cam companies out there. So for somebody shopping cameras for the first time or maybe looking to switch it up, what is actually setting Reveal apart from all the other brands out there that are trying to do the same thing?
Yeah, dude, I appreciate that question because I don't know if you've walked into a Bass Pro Shop or a Shields or a Cabela's lately. Like, there's a lot of options, and right,
Yes.
and I'll be the first one to tell you if you're just looking at features or tech and spec, it's pretty hard to tell the difference between some of these things, right? So for us, I think it's a really simple equation. Like we from the get-go, the first product we ever built, like it's always been this customer first mentality. Like, what is best for the customer? And typically there's one of two answers. I would say 99% of the time both apply. The first is like ease of use, and the second is reliability, right? Like technology, you're a cellular trail camera, you're taking a piece of technology and you're putting it out in the elements 365 days a year. Typically, those two things don't go very well together. Like, think about taking your laptop and putting it out in the woods for a year, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to fare too well. So, that's the big deal. That's like the first big deal for us is like, how do we make sure that they just work for you, right? Because there's nothing more frustrating than like spending your hard-earned money and your hard-earned time to go put one of these things in the woods and then it doesn't work, right? Like that's the worst. So that's one thing that we've always really focused on with our product development is like, we might not be the first to market with a new technology, but we want to make sure we valid like we completely test that technology before we put it in your hands because we want it to work for you. So like reliability is huge. um Along with that reliability though, like if you do have issues, because inherently like nobody can build a product that's 100% bulletproof 100% of the time. So when you do have issues, we want to make sure we take care of you. We've literally like built our business model around that. We have 250 customer service agents that work for this organization. Almost 50% of our organization is customer service agents. These are real people that are employed by our organization. They're not some third party that we hire. They're end users of the product. And guess what? Like when you call us, that person answers the phone. You don't go through this like call tree and like press two to get this person. Then it's like an AI thing. And what like you talk to a real person who can either solve the problem for you on the phone or they escalate it to the next step and they're your representative until that problem gets solved, right? So I think for us, like the reliability paired with our commitment to taking care of customers has really like set us apart from most of the other trail camera companies on the market. And then beyond that, right, it's like ease of use because the other part of this is like as technology evolves, like it can get more and more complicated. A reveal trail camera is like one of the like if you can use this thing, you can set up a reveal trail camera because literally all you have to do is you take the camera out of the package, you put batteries in it, you scan it with your camera. There's a QR code you scan with your phone. It automatically syncs to the app and you're up and running. So
Yeah.
like within minutes of like having a box in your hand to like camera ready to be put in the field, like you're up and running. And I think those things combined, right, like have really set us apart from our competitors and allowed us to continue to grab market share and grow and really support our customers and build community. Because those are the things that are important to the end use consumer and the end use customer.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've used I like your analogy of leaving your laptop out out in the woods. Prior to using Reveal, I had used other brands in the past of cell cams, and man, I won't name any of them, but I've had cell cams that didn't even make it through one season, of I mentioned earlier when I brought up kind of some of the cameras that I'm running, I still got 2.0, which are several years old now at this point. I still got them rocking and rolling, just same as all the rest of them out there. So I'll speak to the reliability of the product. It's pretty incredible, and I vouch for it for sure. They're still out there getting beat up by Texas wind, and we got cows out there that like to brush up against trees every now and then, and chew up an antenna, whatever it might be, and they're still rocking and rolling. So I'm happy with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's our goal, right? It's like we want to provide you with the best product possible, but we also want to make sure that that thing works for you and that you're taken care of,
Yeah.
right? Because there's nothing more frustrating than spending your hard-earned time and money on something and it not working and you not being able to get your problem solved by that company. So we've really stood by that, right? Even as we've continued to grow and really matured as a company, like that hasn't left our priorities in terms of what we want to provide to our customer.
Yeah. So speaking a little bit more detail into that from the marketing standpoint, um, your blue collar hunters, I would argue that they're one of the hardest, some can be one of the hardest groups of people to convince that your product is the best, especially with, a saturated market, for example, as far as what's available. So how do you do that? How do you convince a customer to earn their trust instead of just grabbing their attention with a flashy product?
Yeah, I love the question because it's so relatable, right? And I think it's so true of our industry. I think first and foremost, like proof's in the pudding. A big reason I decided to come work for this organization is because they had an excellent product and they wanted to put more marketing fuel behind that product. There's so many companies out there that are truly just marketing agencies that are trying to outmarket a bad product, right? And that is never a winning equation. And I would not have taken this job if that was the case, right? Like that is a truly unique thing about this organization. So first and foremost, like I think that's how we continue to grow with, to your point, the blue collar hunting community who truly values their dollar, works hard for it, right? And isn't willing to just willy-nilly spend it. And I think beyond that, like we really try and be relatable because we are the end use consumer. Like if I didn't work for this company, I would be buying products from this company, right? Like we are the people that we are selling cameras to. So, I think the hunting industry has done itself a disservice for a long time on trying to, I joke with my team, like so much of the hunting industry is marketing to other marketers, not to the people that we're actually trying to sell products to. Right. And you could almost take any company's logo and put it on a different ad and you wouldn't necessarily know whose it was.
Yeah.
Right. For us, like we're just trying to tell real stories. We're trying to connect with people through the things that they like. We're trying to build community. Right. And we're trying to do so in a way that's not salesy. Right. But like we're just telling the truth. We're being transparent. And I think we're really trying to provide value to our customers, not only through the content we create, but the products we build in a way that they can see and feel that value immediately. And they don't feel like it's something that they have to be sold to. Right. So it almost sounds like I'm talking myself out of a job here. Right. But it's really just like simple. Right. It's like, how would I want to be communicated with? How do I want to integrate or interact with a brand? Like, what excites me in terms of like what I see from a content perspective or what a brand puts out? And we really try and keep it simple. We try and be transparent. We try and be truthful, right? And not try to overthink it. Just meet our customer where they are.
Yeah. Do you think, in regards to just the competition in the market with other brands, is it would you describe it as, I don't know the right word I'm trying to fish for here, but a competition as far as from just innovation, product innovation, or is it turning more into just software based? Like who can develop the best tech right now?
It's a great question, right? And I think what's really interesting about it is, a lot of people always ask me like, "Oh, what are you most excited about?" We will always continue to innovate on the hardware side, right? And like that's a big priority for us. I mean, we have an entire internal engineering team that only focuses on hardware, and they came from like, I mean, I'm not joking here. We have rocket scientists that now work for us. Like,
Wow.
we wanted to improve the power consumption of our camera, like improve the power efficiency. We went and hired an engineer that used to build power systems for rockets that's now designing the battery systems for our cameras, right? So like the brain power here is insane. So the issue with hardware, though, is that you're always going to be the innovation is always limited by the component tree. So the components of the hardware have to get better for the end product to get better, right? Now, that doesn't mean we're slowing down. Like that's true of almost any industry, whether it's cars, soft goods, technical clothing, etc. On the software side, though, you're not limited by a physical piece or component of that camera. So the world is truly our oyster, and so many other, parallel or even non-endemic spaces, right? Whether it's like say the space exploration side of things, or the transportation side of things, or the aerospace side of things, or whatever. Like there's parallel technologies evolving that we can also suck into what we're doing,
Yeah.
and we're providing some innovation to those organizations as well. So I think what's interesting is like it's not and or but both, right? Like the software and the app component of what we do is hugely important, and we put a ton of time and effort into developing, and frankly like that is one of the consistent pieces of feedback we get is like how user friendly our app is. But at
Yeah.
the same time, like you can't ignore the evolution of the hardware side because there is so much improvement yet to be made with cellular trail cameras from the actual piece of hard goods as well. So I think it's both, and I think it's balancing the two, truly.
Yeah. I get that for sure. So it's 2026 right now, and based on since you've been a part of Reveal and been in this industry, and you've seen the industry and the products get to this point, where do you see it just in a general context in the next 5 years?
Yeah. I think it goes back to what I just said. There are some really cool improvements on the hardware side, and I think it comes down to things that people care about most about their cellular trail cameras. Like, you know, I'm not going to give away the farm here because I probably will get fired after this conversation. But if you made a list of things, and I'll challenge your listeners to like three things that you wish could be better about a trail camera, like you're going to see, even if you made a list of five, you're going to see a list of, 3 to 4 of those get accomplished in the next 12 to 18 months. Right.
Wow.
So that's really cool on the hardware side. And I can confidently say that because I've seen where these things are and where they've landed. Right. And it's impressive. I think on the software side, it's going to be more of what we've been talking about, right? It's like, how do you take all these bits and pieces and combine that data into a single source of truth that provides very clear pathways to the end use consumer, whether that's like leveraging AI, whether that's building algorithms that consolidate and analyze that data for you, or whether it's those different data points being able to talk to one another to provide a more fruitful or better outcome for the user. And I think that's what's going to be really interesting about the software and app side, right? Is like how AI and processing systems and algorithms can really simplify our lives, where right now you or I might have to do 5 steps to get to a certain answer. And in the very near future, that answer is just going to be provided for us, at step one.
I got you. I imagine I'm not going to get it out of you, but I have to ask, what's next? Y'all dropped the Ultra last year, so you got something exciting coming down the pipe for 26?
Yeah, I mean, if you're following along with Reveal, right, from 2.0 to 3.0, like, or 1.0 to 2.0, 2.0 to 3.0, we are on a very pretty consistent cadence
Yep.
with regards to when we release cameras. So that will not be changing. And I will say, I truly, and I think we work in an industry where every year something new comes out and it's a game changer. It's the best ever. It's blah, 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 right? What's really cool about what we have coming down the pipe for consumers is, like I said, I think if you made that list of 3 things that are the biggest priority for you with your trail cameras, like we've solved those. So it's all based around customer feedback. It's all based around how can we improve your experience and interaction with the trail camera, and done so in noticeable ways, right? This isn't like, oh, this got 15% better. It's like, no, this got 100% better or 200% better, right? So there's like very noticeable changes in very specific areas that people have been asking for those changes for a long time.
Gotcha. Very cool. Do y'all have is there a date released yet, or is that still coming?
That's still coming.
Okay. Keep
It'll
our
be
eyes
pretty
open.
close to our normal cadence. I promise it'll be before things really heat up for, whitetail prep. So you'll be able to get these cameras in time for all of your heavy preseason stuff this year. We'll just say that.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited, man. I'll be watching for it for sure.
Heck yeah.
Well, I want to real quick. I know this we're almost at an hour already, and it's kind of flown by. If I'm being honest, it's been a good conversation, but I do want to just talk a little bit of hunting with you and kind of tying it just to the Reveal Cell Chem element to start. I'm curious on where you hunt, what you normally hunt, and how you personally use Reveal Cell cameras on a every season on your day to day, whatever it might be for you.
Yeah. So I was a born and bred Midwest guy, right? Born in Wisconsin, grew up there, kind of lived all over that state, from south to east to north to west. So that's kind of that's what I cut my teeth on. I have a lot of nostalgia for the Midwest. Like I have farms in Wisconsin that I'll always hunt. Like that's kind of my home ground, if you will. But that being said, I like to travel a lot to hunt too. Like I put in for Kansas every year. I try and, I have connections in Nebraska and Illinois and, even down by you in Texas. And I like to get out of state and kind of challenge myself. So really the way I use, and like I'm a Montana resident now, so I moved out here last year. So the way I use cameras normally, right, is like for me, my core hunting is kind of always kind of be that Midwest, the properties that are mine or that I have access to. And I can use those cameras to monitor those properties from afar, right? Because like even when I was living in Wisconsin, some of my best farms were 3.5 hours away, right? So they were my eyes on the ground. I can't make it to those properties all the time, but it's a way that I can be actively figuring out, scouting, prepping for season or even in season, right? Really determining how I hunt. And out of state's really the same way, right? It's like I might draw Kansas every other year. I've got a young family, I've got a demanding job. I live a long ways away from there. Like I don't have the ability to go down there a couple times a year.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll get down there and get cameras out once, and then I get to go hunt it once. So I really rely on those cameras to overlay the information I'm getting from those cameras with my either e-scouting or boots on the ground scouting to put together a plan, because my hunt there might be 5 to 7 days max, right? So I don't have a lot of time. And that's really how I find the most value in those cameras, or even now, right? Like I recently moved to a new state. I've never hunted whitetails in Montana before. So I'm almost like starting from ground zero, and I'm using those cameras to, kind of almost lower my learning curve, if you will, to these new spots that I'm now going to be hunting this season. So I'm deploying them all over the place, right? It's more like shotgun shot approach at this point. And that's really like from my own like camera theory, camera perspective, like I start early in the year with shotgun shot approach. So I'm putting cameras everywhere I can and I'm spreading them out. I use that to get a baseline of information, whether that's on my home farm or an out of state farm or a new place I'm hunting, right? And then as we get closer to season, I'm just continually taking that information and continuing to hone in and narrow the range in which those cameras are till eventually I get to in season and I'm using those cameras to help me hunt, right? So
Yeah.
really every year I'm starting wide and I'm using that information just to kind of suck in and narrow down on my actual hunting opportunities.
That's awesome. Yeah, resident Montana hunting, that's got to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, this will be my first year, so I'm pretty excited. I mean, I've lived in the West before. I spent about 5 years living in Idaho. And don't get me wrong, like love chasing elk, love chasing mule deer, antelope, that's all great, but I'm a whitetail guy through and through. And the cool thing about Montana is like you have access to all those Western big game critters and you've got some incredible whitetail hunting as well.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm pretty stoked to be a resident this year and get to experience that.
that's awesome, man. I've hunted Montana twice. Kind of the southern part of the state, north of more of the Cody, Wyoming area, I guess, pronghorn hunting.
Okay.
So I've killed one, been up there twice for pronghorn, 2 different seasons. I killed one year with my bow. But I loved it up there, man. It's incredible. And I know it's only a small sliver of it that I got to see and be a part of, but it's an incredible place. I loved it.
Yeah, definitely feel pretty lucky to be here. It's pretty special.
That's awesome. Well, I got a couple of questions to hit you with that are kind of my closing questions that I ask every first time guest on the show. But before I get to that, is there anything that we've missed talking about Reveal? Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners? Anything else that you want them to understand about Reveal, Tactacam Reveal, aside from just the tech or the product themselves?
No, I don't think so, right? And I think the only other thing I would maybe add, right, is like, you had asked earlier what kind of sets us apart from our competition. And one thing I think to add to everything I've said is there's been, and this is no secret, right? Like I think if you followed along with the trail cam industry over the last couple of years, like there's been this almost this like race to the bottom on price, right? Of like who
Yeah.
can create the cheapest camera, um, and sell the most of them at that cheap price, right? We specifically have kind of chosen not to participate in that because we do really believe in like the value of the product, and we really believe in making sure, like I said, you have a product that's going to work for you. And one of the things that I think, price tag at a store at the checkout doesn't take into account is like, what's the lifetime cost of that camera, right? And that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is like our cameras have the lowest cost of ownership over the lifetime of that camera. So could you go buy a cheaper camera? Absolutely. I would never say that you can. I'm not going to pretend that that doesn't exist because it does. But what we know to be true is that even though that first camera you buy might be cheaper, that camera is going to cost you more over its lifetime than it will if you bought a Reveal. Now,
Right.
that's going to be because it needs to, maybe because it plays sooner, maybe because the data plans cost more. So even though the camera's cheaper, your subscription's actually more expensive, right? So I would just really encourage people like, if you're new to Reveal or haven't used Reveal or you're considering what your next camera is, like take that into account. It's not lost on us the value of a dollar, right? And especially like in today's economy, what that means. But it's important to us to not cheap out on our customers or not provide them with that negative experience that ends up costing them more in the long run. So yeah, just take that into account, right? And here's the other thing. Don't take my word for it. Like I work here. I know I'm biased, right? But talk to somebody else who runs a Reveal or use other cameras. Like talk to somebody who's used the product before. Give our customer service team a call if you want. Like if you have questions before you buy a product, like don't just take my word for it. Like go do your research and talk to somebody else. But I truly believe, and I would not put my name on that if I didn't believe that to be true. And it's something, like I said, that's been really important to us.
Yeah. Well, I'll stick my name right there with you, man, as just a Reveal cell cam user, and we got dozens of people on our team that use them as well, and that's one thing at Fall Obsession that we pride ourselves on is not affiliating with brands. One, we don't want to affiliate with anybody just for the sake of, having a partner or having a sponsor or going that route with anything. If we're tying our name to something, it's because we believe in the product, and we believe that we recognize that our audience is mostly blue collar people. So to your point, I also know exactly how hard it is to how much a hard earned dollar means to folks. So that being said, we definitely want to convey that we believe it is worth your money, if we're tying our name to it, and that's certainly the case with Reveal. And yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I got cameras still out in the woods to this day sending me pictures this morning that are, several years old and still working like they're brand new. So I'll speak to the quality and the duration of the product for sure. I agree with that.
Love to hear it.
So last questions I got for you as we wrap this one up. First one, simple, but it's sometimes a debated topic. Gun or bow?
Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna cheap out on this. If you would have asked me this question 5 years ago, like, or for the past 20 years before that, it was always bow, like bow, 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 bow. I'm an archery guy through and through, but for whatever reason, I have gone down the rabbit hole of rifles and I started building a few rifles myself and reloading, and I've gotten bit by the rifle bug as of late. Now, if I only had to pick one thing to hunt with the rest of my life, I'm probably still choosing bow, but I've really enjoyed getting back into rifle hunting and kind of I don't know, the other side of, I feel like those two groups are always at odds with each other, but for whatever reason, it's like I love both for different reasons, and I've really appreciated rifle hunting as of late.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've had to soften my here within the last year or two. Honestly, I've had to kind of soften my own stance because I've been a hardcore bow guy. I've only archery hunted since for the last 12, 13 years, and now having a son of my own that's getting into hunting and everything, it's like, okay, I can't just be this hardcore bow only guy. I like, if I want my son to have a good experience, I gotta pick up a rifle, and we gotta kind of get that back in the mix. It's not that I'm not still bow hunting, but
Yeah.
I can't really be bow only at the moment. So I understand that too.
Oh man, I was a purist like up until my mid 30s. Like I would archery hunt through rifle season. Like I just refused to carry a
Yeah.
gun in the woods, and that was fine. Like I don't regret any of that. I loved it, but the other side of it is pretty fun too. So I
Oh yeah.
can I can say that.
Yeah. I agree. Next question I have for you. What is one or the, if there is the favorite hunting memory that you have to date?
Oh, that's a good one. Um Honestly, for me, when I think about hunting memories to date, and I've been very lucky, very blessed. I've had the opportunity to hunt some really incredible places, take some really incredible deer. But for me, it always comes back to those like camaraderie moments, right? Like in Wisconsin, opening weekend of gun season, like that is a pilgrimage, that is a tradition unlike any other, right? And like for a lot of years, we hunted in northern Wisconsin where the deer density is low, there's not big deer, but it's that camp experience. It's sharing that time with like friends and family. And, if I had to pick my top five hunting memories, like it's all camaraderie based, it's all
Yeah.
story based, right? So I think for me, it's always just it's that time with friends and family and hunting partners, and it's hard to pick just one. But specifically, I love the new hunter experience. Like I've had the fortune to go out with new hunters, whether it was kids their first time or even adult onset hunters. And man, the joy I got from seeing them have that experience, whether it was successful or not, right? Like it trumps even the joy that I had from the biggest deer I've killed, right? Like to me, those moments seem to be fleeting. It's like when it happens, it's the best thing that's ever happened to you in your entire life. But 2 days later, the lure starts to wear off a bit. Not to say that I don't appreciate it. I appreciate it more than anything, right? But those memories of like new hunters feeling that for the first time, like that just seems to last a really long time for me. And I really enjoy being a part of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I hear that a lot, and I'm really excited because I do feel that myself. Like I certainly have memorable hunts, and I certainly remember my biggest deer and all that kind of stuff. But probably my favorite memories myself are those more experience based, and the guys that you're with, and all that kind of stuff. And everybody I ask that question to, sure, I get answers that are, a pretty wild or once in a lifetime experience, or, a really big deer, big elk, whatever it might be. But, the majority of them I would say are always either camaraderie or family based, something like that. And I love hearing it. It goes to show what truly matters in hunting in the outdoors, in my opinion. So, and it's rich with everyone.
Oh, totally. I mean, I've almost had this like Benjamin Button experience with my dad in hunting too, because my dad was the one that got me into it, right? And then, like all great dads, like he sacrificed his own hunting for me for sports and, all that stuff when I was growing up. And it was funny because he actually kind of got out of it. And then I got like, after I was done with high school sports and college sports, I got more into it. Like, so we almost went opposite, right? And now in the last few years, it's like I've almost got to see him come back into it like through my love for it in the same way I was initially, exposed to hunting. So we've had some really fun memories in the field over the last couple years as he's gotten kind of rebit by the hunting bug, and we've got to share those experiences together, which has been pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I can relate, man. It's been similar for me and my dad in a certain way. Not he's always been a hunter and everything, but I grew up hunting with him, and he took care of everything in camp and all the stuff, and now it's like a 180. I drive him to his stand, and I drop him off, and I pick him up and cook breakfast and all that kind of stuff, and it's just cool how things work like that. It's kind of feels like you're kind of repaying the favor almost, and I enjoy it. So
Totally. And I've got a lot of dues to pay because he definitely set me up early in life, that's for sure.
No, I totally relate. Last question I have for you. What is on the bucket list? What are those hunts that you would consider for you once in a lifetime if you got to do it?
Ooh. Um, I'm actually doing one this year. I've always wanted to whitetail hunt in Canada. And we're going up to Alberta this year for a whitetail hunt in November, which I'm really excited about. The other big one for me is archery moose and archery caribou. So those two are high on my list. I don't know when I'll get to do them, but I'm definitely going to do both of those someday as well.
That's awesome. Archery caribou is my number one, and it blows my mind how many people I talk to that is also their number one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in this world that want to do that.
I mean, I get it. It looks incredible. I know a few buddies that have gone, and like they have nothing but awesome things to say about it. So I get it.
Yeah, same. Well, man, thank you for the last hour plus and hanging with us on the show and talking, diving in deep into the reveal culture, the technology, the lifestyle, all of it. I appreciate it. It's been an awesome conversation. I've enjoyed it.
Appreciate you guys having me on, man. This was fun.
Yeah. I would normally say, tell us how we can find you, but I'm pretty sure our listeners know how to find the reveal pages and go to the website and shop around if they're looking for it, or like you said earlier, you can walk into your local sporting goods store and probably find one on the shelf too if you want to snag one real quick. But y'all are all over the place, so not too hard to find.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, man. This was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. Appreciate you. Thanks, guys, for listening. Those of you that tuned in live, appreciate it. And we'll be back with you all again next week for another Fall Obsession podcast. I will catch you then.